at Mandela Survival Camp 2026. This is, of course, higher education. Right here on Robben Island. This is your tertiary doing this. We just landed here. This is Friday afternoon, and this is what they were talking about live TV now. So let's see what happens. We can show you, and I need to speak softly because we've got Honorable Minister Buti Manamela, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, right here on Robben Island, and he's addressing the young people that has been doing this specific leadership camp this past week.
It's manifold, but one I think is on the first year was to introduce students who are leaders on campuses to Robben Island, because I think, as you would have seen, it's not as celebrity as it is, or its history is not a celebrity type of history. The things that we've had were real. People were locked up here, some for more than 30 years for political crimes, or what was defined as political crimes. So it's basically to introduce us to that history, but also to introduce us to what I would imagine are the two most popular detainees of this place, which was Nelson Mandela and Robert Sobukwe, who were both shared a path of history. They were both student leaders, youth leaders, then went on to become leaders of their political parties, the ANC and the PAC. They were both arrested here, they were both in the ANC league, they were both at Fort Hare. So it's somewhat similar journey, but which was also divergent, and to also try and appreciate the qualities of both leaders, both Mandela and Sobukwe, and to emphasize their distinction. And I'll talk a bit more, about that as we go on. So that was the fact and main thing. So to introduce student leaders to this place and these people and both their history, but also to look at leadership beyond the lens of the traditional. So to discuss issues of leadership, and I'm sure you have. We've had a stint about entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. And so it's about having a conversation, okay? And I hope that we will have that here. So you are the fourth, or you're in the fourth year, but we've actually had more, of the Mandela Sobukwe Leadership Camp, because a lot of student leaders, wanted to be part of this. So we've been doing pop-ups, and I suppose when we do the next pop-ups in the year, we'll be in the regions, and some of you will help us lead in that. But we also try and keep it, I don't know what's the word, but for us to see each other as student leaders, not from CET colleges, not from TVETs, not from universities, but as students within the post-school education and training sector, because we see some shared interests of students across the system, and keep out our political identities. I know if we take off these blue sweaters, some of you would belong to specific student political parties. It's okay to express ourselves in that way, but we thought that sometimes people differ just because you see that one wearing a white shirt and I'm wearing a black political party shirt. So the idea, I think, is for us to we still speak out, but think just to try and create that camaraderie of being students in the post-school education and training sector. So I hope that when we do the evaluations, you'll be honest about your reflections, about what you think we should do, we should improve, what we should strengthen for the camp moving forward. It was what Ramnik called a small ocean problem yesterday, which meant that we couldn't do things the way we. But that's what happens on an island. You tend to be cut out from the rest. So that's basically why we have this, and why we're going to continue. And we're quite grateful to Higher Health and also to the staff at our department who work tirelessly to put together this. But more importantly, to all of you who are part, of this. So, yeah, that's where I am. Now, we're going to focus on leadership, and I know that there has been some talk of that. And you have your books there, and in your books, I want us to think about, one, the kind of leader we emulate, that we look up to. It doesn't have to be Nelson Mandela and or so. It can be any role outside the books. And then secondly, to write those down, what we think are the characteristics or traits of a good leader, which is 3 characteristics of. So what would you imagine is a good leader for you? Okay, so we're done with who. Yeah, so who's that leader that we look up to, that we emulate, that we think, and then probably the why, which is what you think are the good characteristics of the leader. Who's that? Who's that? Who's finished? Is that? Oh. Yeah. 3. Yeah. Just one way, not paragraph. Yeah. If it's honesty, just like honesty. If you like them because that is honest, quality, write it down. At the back of the second page, if you're done with the 3 ways that define a good leader, now, who are leaders here? Who are leaders? Do you consider yourself a leader? I see some leaders are not raising their hands. I see some leaders who are hesitant, not sure whether I'm a leader or not. Maybe it's because I don't know what a leader is, but I'm just. So who are leaders? Yeah, of course. That's the president of some later then. Okay. All right. Some are hesitant, some are not sure, so let's. Now, so that's not a tricky question. And the reason why I'm asking you who are leaders, so those who are leaders, what is it about your leadership that you think should improve to make it better? Okay, so I want you to write that at the back of your page. Just one thing, whatever it is, and then those who are hesitant about whether they're leaders or not, I want you to look at the leader you've identified, and on the basis that leader that you've identify what is it that you believe is good about the leadership. So, with that, now, let's talk about the people that we've identified. Who's your leader? Nelson Mandela. Okay, Nelson Mandela. Do we have the Mandelas here? How many Mandelas do we have? Who picked Mandela? Mandela. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, you didn't say which Mandela you picked. Which Mandela did you pick? You picked which Mandela? Nelson. Nelly. You picked Nelly. Okay, Winnie Mandela. Do you have Winnie Mandelas? Winnie Mandela? Okay, Winnie Mandelas. Who else? Who did you pick? Yeah. Miriam Makeba. Do we have the Makebas here? Miriam Makeba. Oh, who did you pick? Peter Mutaba. Do we have Peter Mutaba here? Okay, just one. Who did you pick? Yeah. Steve Biko. Let's see the Bikos. All right. Okay. Anybody? Yeah. Your mom. Yeah. So I think in the 4 years when we had this conversation, this is probably one of those very few moments someone picks someone who they've never even met at all. Like we hear that they are good leaders. So yeah, it's part of I think that people choose someone as their mom, who's a great leader, by the way. Okay. Well, anybody else? Deputy Minister Mimi Conway. Yeah, are there any Conways here? Okay. Blades Nzimande, yes, former minister. John Langa Dibelele Tuve. Okay. Mr. Solomon Masangu, sure. Now, Muammar Gaddafi. So now, just as much as we have someone distinct mentioning their mother, there's always people picking political leaders. Which is almost what we've done, except Miriam Makeba and a few others, but we've specifically, we're more leaning towards political leadership. And I suppose maybe because we aspire or are already political leaders, or we mostly look up to political leaders, but also because political leaders who hold political office who make decisions, their decisions affect us, right? And I suppose also because of our history of active politics being the vehicle which was used to transform, or the major vehicle, because it wasn't just politics that people used to defeat apartheid. People used sports as a form of protest. People used trade, economy as a form of protest. Sanctions was one of those things, and mobilizing the international community to focus on South Africa, isolate South Africa because of its racism. But political leaders somewhat occupy a particular play because of the role that they have played. Now, from the time of Mandela and Sobukwe Robert Sobukwe, John Langalibalele Dube, and so on and so forth. Leadership in the South African context has evolved. Okay? So, I mean, from protest, which were the political leaders in the freedom, in the liberation movements, but also from suppression, a suppressive regime, because those are leaders, maybe bad leaders in our view, in our context, but that's leadership, okay? So leadership has evolved into something else. And so, what is it that it has evolved into? Now, let's go back to the 3 traits that we've identified of leadership, and let's see what we think are leaders.
I picked honesty, accountable, and kind. Kindness, yeah.
I chose brave. As a leader, you have to be brave, trustworthy, and loyal.
So I chose patience, honesty, and understanding.
So, since you got here on Wednesday, and so where are you from? Western Chico College. So since you got here on Wednesday, which means Friday, I want you to take that mic and give it to the person you like the most.
So I chose honest, firm, and accountability.
And accountability. Okay. I see that I was worried that you were going to give the mic to you. Okay, yeah. So that's the person you like the most. No, you can't tell me that. What kind of gentleman are you?
Hello everyone. I've chosen trusted, privileged, and transparent.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Pili Shakanyele from Unizulu. I choose the responsibility, selfless, and transparency.
You don't want to walk, or you just found someone you like very close to you. Okay.
Okay.
She even does your homework.
Okay, so we chose accountability.
you wrote.
Okay, I didn't write anything to be honest, but what is in my mind is that a leader must be a transformative leader and a servant leader.
Yeah, who you giving the mic? This is. He's the last, yeah. He's the last one. So what are the three? Are you also going to start with we?
I.
Okay. Do.
No, I don't think the three things I chose is accountability, putting people first, and honesty.
And honesty. So, I think leadership is one of the most important things that make institutions work. And I've heard a lot of you talk about accountability, about honesty, about about being disciplined, and so on and so forth. And those are very important traits which, if you do not have, then you will essentially have a crisis of leadership. But also, it's not what the sophisticated leadership framework that people talk about usually get to. So what really are the characteristics of a good leader? We all often think about very complex things. And I think what leadership should be about the simple things, and I'll talk to those just now, and some of them you've already touched on that. But part of what I think is a crisis of leadership of our time, as I've said earlier, that it has obviously evolved, since the times of Mandela, Sobukwe, and all of that, is that one of our biggest first challenge of leadership is the rise of performative leadership. Yeah? So what do we mean? I guess someone said, yeah, what do we mean by that? Where's the mic? Yeah.
Should I bring the mic?
Good afternoon, my name is Nadia. My performative leaders is, I can give you an example, is a leader that performs for the students. So when I get in front of the students, I promise them everything. But then behind closed doors, I do not keep my word over. Stay accountable. So basically like a poster boy. We call them poster boys about that. In my institution, we call them poster boys. Whereas on paper and in pictures, you'll be the first one to say, Amanda!
Yeah.
But behind doors, you are scared cat.
So it's loud, it's a show, it's visible, but there's no substance, okay? You're not keeping up to what you say, and all you're doing it for is for the cameras. And once the cameras are off, once your Insta life is gone, or your TikTok life is gone, so I've literally seen leaders who do things because they want to be seen behind the camera. And it's also, are you doing something because it has to be done, or are you doing something because you need to be seen to be doing it, and for what benefit? But the second one is graft leadership, okay? So it's those who are doing something because there's a benefit for them. But so it's graft. Graft is G-R-A-F-T. So it's basically leadership to access resources. You want to be in the SRC because the SRC people have got nice blazers, they have access to the institutional car, And sometimes the SRC president gets the best boyfriend or girlfriend, you know. But you're in charge of the freshers' ball budget, you know, and so on and so forth. Things which do not necessarily have to do with the actual responsibility of leadership. And when you're required to show up, because there's no personal or individual benefit, you basically run away. Okay? So that's graft leadership, which constitutes part of what I believe is the leadership crisis of our time. Then there's vanity leadership. Do you know what the word vanity means? Vanity. Yeah. V-A-N-I-T-Y. Vanity. What does Google say? There's no network. Okay. So that's leadership because of its status. Okay? You know, so I want to be president because there is the position of president available. There are people who occupy an office instead of being leaders. So you get your leadership defined by your office. When you hear someone say, I am the boss, or I am the leader, I'm the president, you know, leaders don't have to say what they are. You just have to do what is expected of you. You know, so if you start misbehaving now and then I say, I am the minister, okay? So it's not that I expect you to have a conversation with you on the basis of you know, the subject matter, but I expect us to have a conversation. You must listen to me because I'm the minister, you know, I'm the boss. I know it all, you know, so that they know. So it's China. Now, a comrade of mine was telling me that you know, so he was in exile, and whilst in exile, they were deployed to the same camp with some comrades from Haiti. And so this chap from Haiti says to him, yeah, but how many black people and how many white people are there in South Africa? I said, a couple of millions, maybe 3 million. And then how many black people? 30 million. So the chap from Haiti said, but how can you be oppressed by 3 million? Yeah? Why don't you, I'm sure when you were walking around, you know, I know the common question that people asked the other time when we were here was, yeah, but Cape Town is just here. Or what's the other thing? Hope Bay is just here. Why did they just swim across, you know, and come out and come and liberate our country? But it's because apartheid was based on fear. It was based on instilling fear. But it was also about power and dispossession, okay? And it was about dominance, but importantly, it was about instilling fear. You see the pictures of, you know, as far back as the 1600s, during the wars of dispossession, into, you know, 1906, with Chief Bambata being, his head chopped off and shown around to the other kings and chiefs that if you behave like me, this is what will follow. You know, the pictures of Sharpeville, the pictures of June 16, 1976, of 86, but even the trauma that people had to go through, whether man, woman, or child. So it was about fear, it was about instilling, you know, that fear. So it's not as simple as, you know, Mandela sold out. I'm sure you've had that. I hear now, each time when we are in this period, people always say that Mandela sold out. And later on, I want to, if we have some time, to have a brief discussion, you know, about that. But I'm saying this to emphasize three important things: that leadership is about service, okay, and importantly, it's also about moral practice. What's moral It's what? Yes, your values and your beliefs. Not somebody else's, but yours. And to live by those and to exemplify those. You know, so having so it's got nothing to do with religion, it's got nothing to do with tradition. It's about how you see life and how you want to life to be lived by the rest of us. Those become your values, you know, and so on. And so that leadership is about you know, moral practice and not about branding. Okay? And thirdly, it's about collective responsibility. All right? So I saw a mimic doing the rounds using AI. And they've manipulated Mandela, they've given him words, and in there he says, yeah, you say I sold out, but where was your parents? And you saw that? Yes, yeah. Now, okay, that's, you know, that's I think the worst form. But what it's trying to also illustrate was that at most parts of our transition into democracy, it was a collective act. It was not about Mandela and Sobukwe. Okay? There were hundreds of other people. Seth Cooper Prof, who was here in the morning, you know, was one of those. And I think when you were walking around doing the tours, I hope we spoke to some of those people. And so there were so many people who were locked up in this place. I think the tour guide was telling us that, you know, people like Jeff Haddad, Jacob Zuma, you know, were occupying the cells. And so you may know a whole lot more people who were you know, present here. But beyond that, the struggle was also about organizations, a collective of people, and that leadership is about that collective. And the two people who were given prominence because of their prisoner status always emphasized that the people are the true liberators, all right? That you know, at one given time in life, obviously leadership responsibility falls on the shoulders of some, but the people are their true liberators, and that there is no one who can claim the role of a you know, of a Messiah who saved you know, people. And that Mandela himself contributed in the act of liberating himself, okay, from apartheid. Now, there has been, whether Mandela sold out or not, you know, whatever your view is around that, I think what is important is for us to understand the context within which his release, well, the beginning of the negotiations, his release, and what we now call Freedom Day, and so on and so forth, that context where things were happening in the way in which, you know, were happening, were there any other options? Okay? He didn't die at that time, but in that period when there were negotiations, that's the time we had the most number of people who were killed by the apartheid regime. Well, there was wars in the townships, you know, and so on and so forth. So something had to give. Someone had to provide. So this notion that the liberation movement or movements chose the route of peace when they could have, you know, taken over overthrew the white regime and taken over government violently. There was already violence in the townships and everywhere else. And what was needed was to save lives. So I think we need to take whatever happened in that period within the context of which it was happening. And that it was about the collective act of leaders who had that responsibility, you know, at that time. And so, service, moral practice, but also collective responsibility as the key traits of leadership. Now, you've gone through all of these things. I want to go through, you know, some of the points that you've mentioned and why they're important and why they are the simple traits of, you know, I believe being a leader. Firstly, listen. Okay, so we've had that quite a lot. But what does it really mean to listen? What does it mean for a leader to listen? Who has the mic?
I should say.
Yeah.
For me, to listen is to listen to understand, not just to respond.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. To listen to hear different views.
Listen to uninterrupt.
Yeah. Listen so that to uninterrupt. Yeah. Uninterrupt. So what does that mean?
That means to give the person full attention to
Yeah.
talk while
Yeah.
listening, not to interrupt.
Yes,
the
yes,
person.
exactly. Because listening is an act of respect. Once you listen to someone, it means you respect them. You respect their views, you respect what they have to say. After all, if leadership is about service, how do you serve when you're not listening? Okay? So you need to, you know, to listen. Sounds very simple to do. You know, and part of the I think the experiences over the years has been that some of the tensions that happens on campus, I think those who are in the SRCs would know, you know, that some of the tensions on campus happens because we believe as students we're not being listened to. Okay? All right? And so we end up using other means, you know, to protest. But we ourselves have that responsibility to also obviously listen, not just to, you know, to ourselves, but also to our constituency, but also to the other side, because it's part of the contradictions that happen, you know, on campus, for there to be movement forward. But the second thing, and I think it's important that we watch that, especially as leaders. I'm sure you've seen here, there's been those who've been speaking the most. Yeah? I'm not suggesting that they're not listening to others, but you have people who speak the most. And speaking is also an important trait of leadership. How else would you lead if you don't speak? But what you speak also matters, all right? So to speak out is important as a leader. When you see that there are injustices, when you believe that there are things that are happening that should be happening, to speak out, to agitate, you know, to mobilize, and so on and so forth. So in as much as leaders should listen, leaders should also be there to speak out, you know, on behalf of or for the people whom they, you know, they represent. But also speaking out is about courage. Okay? So you don't just speak out just because something needs to be said, but also it's not everyone who would speak the uncomfortable truth that you believe are, you know, what you represent as a leader. Not everyone has that courage, and I think to emphasize the point that leadership is also about, speaking out is important. And that's probably why some of you are here, as peer leaders, and so on and so forth. But speaking out doesn't also mean that, we have, call them social media soldiers. So they will say whatever they say on social media, but when it matters the most, because it is about being on social media or anywhere else, then they tend to disappear. But also if you speak because there is a microphone, you tend to go on and on into irrelevance and into posturing, and so forth. And so it's not about what you speak. It's not about just speaking. It's also about what you speak. Now, someone said you have to care. Who said that? As a leader, caring is an important act of leadership. Who said that? Huh? It's you. Yeah. To care. Do you know Che Guevara? Che Guevara. Che. You don't know Che. You must check who Che is.
They know his face.
See, yeah, definitely. Look at that. Can we beam Che Guevara there? I'm sure you know Che Guevara. He also got hair, but it looks completely different. I think whoever runs the... Now, so Che Guevara says that a true leadership, or a true leader, one of the great qualities of a true leader is love. Okay? It's care, it's benevolence. And that he cannot imagine anyone calling themselves a leader without this simple trait. Okay? And he says saying this may make him sound ridiculous. Now, Che Guevara took his motorbike, went to join Fidel Castro in Mexico, and then they ended up on a boat, 80 of them, into a small island called Cuba on the 1st of January 1960. I think 60 or 61. 80 of them went into Cuba as guerrillas, and 7 or 8 days later, Cuba became a completely different country from as a Spanish colony. Now, he says it's ridiculous for someone who is associated with all of these acts, but he says that he wouldn't have done that together with his 80 other comrades, including Fidel and Raul and so forth. They wouldn't have done this if they were not driven by that great feeling of love for their people. Now, leadership means that you will have to do things which are a sacrifice, things which take you away from your classroom or lecture halls, things that take you away from your girlfriend or boyfriend, like you are here now on an island meeting new people. But you are going to do that precisely because you love what you do. I suppose we all love being peer educators, right? Yes. And I suppose we all appreciate the role that we play, but we're not doing it for the sake of it. We also do it because we love our fellow students. All right? And that's an important and mostly underestimated trait. And I want to take it back to the notion that Mandela sold out. Someone who spent 27 years here. Robert Sobukwe and them, that they could have done much more. So how much more do you think someone who has gone through all of that, and what is it that would have just driven these people to do all of this, other than it being an act of love. It's not like in their time everybody was on the streets or was prepared to go to jail or was prepared to go to exile. But it's also not because they themselves were brave to do that. It's not just a simple act of bravery. It is the desire for one to be free and the love for your own people that has driven them into these acts of wanting to liberate or contributing to the liberation of their people. So leadership is about care, it's about love, it's about benevolence, and those are very simple traits that we should not underestimate in the discussion about leadership. And so some of the key questions that we should ask ourselves as leaders is, who benefits from what I do? It shows who you care for. So what I do, who benefits from that, but also who's worse off from it. So, from one of my colleagues, there's a student leader from one of the universities who's on television, South African Broadcasting Corporation, 7 o'clock news, and he's talking about how the NSFAS, so he's now not speaking about the student population or what's happening on campus, but how the NSFAS has not paid him, and he's been telling the reporter, as you see me now, I'm supposed to go to exams, I'm hungry, NSFAS is inefficient. Yes, they've got their own challenges. So I took that screen grab and sent it to the NSFAS and said, you guys have to deal with this. You have to make sure that the allowances of this student are paid, okay? So to form, they check their system, and this chap's allowances are up to date, like properly paid, fully, like no rent missing from the NSFAS. Now, it was probably a stunt. It was probably because there's a camera, and so on and so forth. And they followed up with him to say, look, we need to check, we've just seen this, and so. But that act, which is essentially an act of dishonesty, could lead into serious problems. Okay? Firstly, the perception that, besides its own challenges, that the NSFAS and therefore consequently government do not care. At WUSU, last year, there was a student who was shot dead. Okay? So the South African Human Research Council did their research, their investigations to find out as to what led to that and how can we prevent that. And one of the things that they identified as a problem was that the protest was triggered by a tweet. So someone tweeted something, and then it led to students protesting, and so on. It doesn't mean that there was no problem of student accommodation at WUSU. Yes, there was, but a problem which was being handled nevertheless. But because of misinformation and a knowledge gap that existed, which was exploited, students came out into protest, and foolishly, one of the campus managers for security personnel, then shot and killed one of the students, and I think 2 or more of those students were injured. But all of this initiated or sparked by a tweet that contained false information. Now, being a leader, one of the things it requires is knowledge, but also responsibility. Okay? So leaders must know. Now, when we say leaders must know, we're not talking gossip. Yeah. But it's about enriching your knowledge broadly around what is it that's expected of you as a leader. That's important. But knowledge of the surrounding community that you live in. And responsibility is as important for a leader. It also means being accountable. So knowledge, responsibility, and accountability are important. And you should know that your actions should come with a certain level of accountability. That you have to be accountable not just to yourself and your collective, but also to the people whom you represent. Okay. Selflessness as an important trait of leadership. So service, but also selflessness. So it's not about me going to benefit from all of this. And I think we are aware of a lot of instances and a lot of leaders who do things because they see leadership as that, as part of serving people as opposed to serving themselves and their own egos and their own pockets. I've also seen leaders who pursue leadership not for the sake of service. So selflessness is an important trait of leadership. I think there was emphasis around service earlier, and that goes hand in hand with selflessness. And then be democratic. Okay? That's crucial. What does democracy mean? Who knows? Who's got the mic? Who's monopolizing the mic? You have the mic and you're sleeping. If I had the mic, yeah, give it to someone. Oh, bring it here, bring it here.
Thank you, Minister. I think, or what I know about being democratic is that there has to be equality in everything. You must treat both genders the same way. If there's an opportunity, there must be opportunity for both. Doesn't have to be feminism or patriarchy. So it must be a fair thing where you know that everyone will be shared, will be saved or be served at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay. Democracy. Oh. We clap it. Thank you.
My chairman too. I just throw it out there. I'm assuming, I think being a democratic leader would mean giving people an option to choose on what they want, basically. I'm going to put it in context.
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, in a sense, you want to choose, let me say a tender, and then we basically vote on it, or you vote on it. So, in that essence, that's being democratic. Allowing people to choose what they want to, and then we vote on it, and we reach consensus.
Okay. All right. Giving people what they want. Yeah. What else? Democracy.
Should I choose?
Yeah, you can. Choose or be chosen. You've been chosen.
Okay, I'll just be very brief. I think it's the decentralization of power. The decentralization of power.
Decentralization of power. That's democracy. Because autocracy is what? The concentration of power. Okay. Yeah.
Everyone can be free to let their opinions.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Next.
Who you choose? Hey.
Must I choose?
Yes. It's your democratic right. Yeah.
Saying that everybody's equal, you know, everybody has the same amount of freedom or something like that.
Freedom and equality. So that's at a very complex level. That's what democracy is. And at a simple way, it's about, yes, giving people choices, equality, and so on and so forth. At a practical level, it's also about what we do within our meetings. Do we listen to different views? Do we allow people to express them? Not everything can and should be voted for, right? And that should be the last resort when you have to vote, for something, because we try and build consensus. So at a practical level, it's about that. It's about understanding how you provide leadership in a collective. Is it in a democratic way? Do people participate? Do you listen to their opinions? But also, it's also understanding that your time comes to an end sometime. With defined term limits. If there's no defined term limits, then that's fine. You can be SRC president forever. And then understanding also that there's diverse political, social, and so on and so forth views. That's just about democracy. So big up, I think, for us is leaders who are democratic. That's a strong and important characteristic. Now, I think in this last 2 minutes, last 3 minutes, we have this very fascinating discussion about whether leaders are born. Okay, it's fascinating because everyone has got all these interesting theories around whether leaders are born or whether leaders are made. Which leaders are born? Who says leaders are born? So you're a born leader. Yeah. Okay. And that they are made. And that is both. Okay. All right. So it's a discussion that I think you can continue on your own. But what I want to say about that, not that I'm the authority, is that it's the circumstances that put Nelson Mandela where he was. Okay? So you have probably remained unknown in Kunu, herding cattle and becoming a chief. But the circumstances after his birth. So as a chief, he was born to be a leader. Unquestionable. Whether you liked it or not, he was going to be occupying the position of chieftaincy of what? Batembu. Okay? Now, the circumstances that he found himself in, apartheid, colonialism, and so on and so forth, and similarly Robert Sobukwe, the circumstances that they found themselves in probably propelled them to be the leaders that they became. So it's a combination of both. And it applies with those who are born into royalty and who are ordained or proclaimed as royalty or as kings and as queens. That they also have to do certain things to enhance their leadership. And I think to just end it there, or to keep it as either or, born or made, and so on and so forth, it's just being simplistic about, because we might as well consider any fool who holds an office key as a leader. All right? Yeah. So what it means is that you have to be involved in a continuous process of self-cultivation as a leader. All right? So you have to consistently contribute into that making process. All right? And that, the best thing that has happened so far is that you were born, and what you quite crucial. We, in conclusion, are building a post-school education and training sector as a system. Okay, it's one whole system that interacts and interfaces amongst itself, that each of the components of this post-school education and training system contributes into the whole. Okay? And it will not succeed. Well, we've come this far where we are because of leadership, because people were at the helm, people thought about the problems that we confronted with, and when I mean that we have leadership, I don't just mean people who have been president, who've been minister, but I also mean people who have been principals of Tibet colleges, presidents of SRCs in our universities, in our colleges. Each that as a system, and that there is no leadership role that is less important. The fact that you are a principal does not make you the alpha and omega. I've seen some few principals. Where are the principals? And the principal of principals that was sitting here. That it doesn't make you the alpha and omega because you are the vice chancellor. But similarly, as a student leader, it doesn't mean that you know it all. Okay? And that we have to appreciate that in order for us to build this system where all these institutional forms interface and interact and contribute to a better country, that we all have to forego what we believe are our status and our privileges, and we all have to contribute into this project. And know that everyone has an idea. I am not I'm not a student in any of, well, let me not say that with so much definitiveness. But let me say that I'm not a student at a CET college, okay? I don't know what the experiences of students at a CET colleges are, except what the SRC tells me, but I have no right to say that's not true. That's not how you're supposed to feel, that's not how you're supposed to think, or that's not how you're supposed to perceive, because that's your lived experience. And in that way, when we all share our lived experiences about what the system is and how we build the system and what we want to see the system being into the future, it would require all of us to play our respective role as leadership within the peace sector. I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for listening. Oh, you've got questions? Okay. Maybe we can take 3, 1, 2,
That is, of course, the Honorable Minister Buti Manamela speaking to students at the Mandela Sabuka Leadership Camp here in at Robben Island, and they have been here for the past few days, and we are here at the invitation of the Bullen College, and I was joined by Lyndon Jafta from Paul FM, and maybe Lyndon can just give some of his experiences here.
Baie dankie vir die geleentheid. Daar's een ding wat baie uitstaan vir my en is die feit dat die minister het gefokus en deel van sy gesprek het hy gepraat van waar ons heidaglik onsself bevind op Robben Island en hy het byvoorbeeld gesê gister was daar en dit is wat definitief weer gister die weer was nie te gunstig nie en as gevolg daarvan kon niemand na die eiland toe kom nie. Hy het gesê dis 'n plek van leer. Maar hy het dit gebruik en hy het die voorbeeld daarvan gemaak wat nogals meer relevant is dat is goed om op 'n eiland te wees en te leer daar, maar onthou net die omstandighede moet nie vir jou afsluit van dit wat rondom jou aangaan. Jy moet nie ontoeganklik is vir leer nie, nie ontoeganklik is vir mense nie. En hy is 'n baie goeie analogie wat hy daar gebruik het. Die feit dat hy plat op die grond gaan sit het en interaksie gehad het saam met die leerders, met die studente, het gewys wat 'n tipe leier hy is. Hy het ook verskillende voorbeelde van leierskap met hulle bespreek en byvoorbeeld een van hulle is jy moet kan praat as 'n leier, maar jy moet konteks het wanneer jy praat. Dit moet in konteks gedoen word. Maar dan ook moet jy luister. As 'n leier moet jy kan luister. Anders gaan jy nie kan lei nie. So, baie goeie leierskap kamp en ek is doodseker dat die studente het baie geleer uit die uit. Baie dankie vir die geleentheid.
Lyndon, vertel ons net 'n bietjie meer in terme van ons uitnodiging hierheen. Ek het nou nie so baie details daarom ek is net hier. Ek is Lyndon se sidekick gou. vir die dag Boland College se rol, vertel ons 'n bietjie meer aan dit.
Ek was genooi deur Boland College, Daniel, met ons Parel FM 'n goeie
is dit nou die dame wat op kamera is nou?
Ja, dis Daniel. Ja, Parel FM het 'n baie goeie verhouding saam met Boland College en ek het uitnodiging gekry van Daniel om deel te wees van die leierskapkamp en ek het onmiddellik kontak gemaak saam met die kontakpersoon. Hy doen die kommunikasie vir Higher Life, sy naam is Nashif. En toe het ek hom gevra of dit moontlik is om iemand anders saam te bring wat prominent en relevant in die gemeenskap is, wat ek weet ook baat gaan vind hierso. Maar vir ons dat die persoon sal baat vind, dat ook 'n goeie platform gaan wees om die kamp te deel en aan studente in Parel en die omgewing ook te kan nader bring aan wat by die kamp bespreek is, want dit is relevant by elke leier van vandag, of jy nou student is, of jy nou op college is, en of jy net in die area is waar jy gemeenskapsleier is, 'n jeugleier by die kerk. Solank jy in 'n leierskapposisie is, gaan jy baat vind van dit wat vandag gedeel word.
En ek dink ons het basies vir mense nou die waardevolste deel gegee van hierdie week waar die hoogtepunt waar die minister van hoër onderwys en opleiding natuurlik gepraat het oor die verskillende tipe leierskapstyle.
Ja, en het ook van hy het byvoorbeeld vir hulle gevra, sê vir ons, wie dink jy is 'n leier? So hy het vir hulle gesê, hy het dat hulle self gaan dink en ook gesê wat 'n tipe eienskappe hulle voel 'n leier moet hê. En ek het geluister na die verskillende leiereienskappe wat deur die studente gedeel was. En dit is verskillende maniere van dit is hoe hulle leiers sien, maar basies sien hulle self en die eienskappe wat hulle in sterk is, wat hulle voel in 'n leier moet wees. Soos byvoorbeeld waar ek toe ek onderhoude gedoen het toe in my vorige werk waar ek mense onderhoud gevoer het en hulle gevra het, wat 'n tipe bestuurder wil jy graag hê moet vir jou bestuur? Op so 'n manier het hulle vir ons gesê wie hulle is. Vir my gesê wie hulle is, wat hulle like doen. En dit is presies wat ek gesien het hy nou vandag gedoen het. Hy het vir hulle gevra basies, wat 'n tipe leier eienskappe dink jy is in jou om 'n leier te wees van enige ander organisasie of van die land of net van jouself?
Twee dinge wat vir my uitgestaan het is dat die jong mense het baie gefokus op politieke leiers en tweedens in al die aspekte van 'n goeie leier wat uitgekom het was integriteit deel van daai pakket.
Yes, definitief. Maar ook, ek hou van gepraat van integriteit. Hy het die apartheid era gevat. En byvoorbeeld die June 16 movement het hy gevat en hy daai geomskep om te sê wat 'n tipe leier daaruit moes kom. Die geweld in die vroeë jare met apartheid. Hy het daai gevat en hy het gesê wat 'n tipe leier eienskappe uit daai uit moes kom om vir ons te bring tot waar ons vandag is. Hy het byvoorbeeld van die geweld gevat en gesê baie mense kon die geweld vat en hulle kon daarmee hardloop. Maar as 'n leier moes jy kan praat, jy moes kan luister en jy moes ook kan omgee. Want een persoon het gesê 'n leier het almal uit een persoon gesê 'n leier moet kan omgee. So ek hou van die feit dat hy dit gevat het die apartheid era se geweld en uit daai het hy verskillende leiereienskappe uitgehaal en gesê dit is wat die leiers moes nodig het in daai dag in daai era om uit te kom tot waar ons is.
'n Interessante gedagte wat nou dalk vir sommige mense glad nie relevant sou klink tot hierdie is dat in Lorenza Eckhart se program hierdie week wat hulle nog gepraat het van die DA leierskap, die opvolgte van die Kaapstad se burgemeester se posisie om die DA leierskap oor te vat, was hy genoem dat in die stad Kaapstad en in die DA se manier van dinge doen word daar nie regtig ruimte geskep vir die opgroei of die preparation van die next generation nie. En ek dink op 'n nasionale vlak is dit absoluut die regte manier om dinge te doen om ons jong mense te koop om vir hulle self reg te maak vir die groot menswêreld.
Ja, kyk, ek is nog nie 'n politieke ontleder nie, maar ek is ook nie oblivious vir dit wat aangaan nie. Dit wat jy nou gesê het, kan 'n mens tweeledig kyk. Op hierdie oomblik is dit kan 'n mens sien dat die DA as 'n party wat op hierdie oomblik in 'n krisis is. So al wat hulle wil doen is hulle wil voorbly. En dit was baie goed om te kan leer en ontwikkel wanneer dit smooth sailing is. Maar once jy in 'n situasie kom waar dan op paniek gesaai word, dan dink jy onmiddellik wie gaan my nou kan help om uit die paniek uit te kom. So kan jy nou dink aan jou wat nog met ervaring opdoen nie. Ek kan jy dink aan jou wat 'n populariteitskontes wil deurgaan nie. Ons moet kyk na wat is nou relevant. Wat gaan ons nou help? Wat ervaring gaan nou vir ons deur die terugbring?
Korttermyn oplossings.
Ja, en dis ongelukkig. Dit kan gesien word as iets wat miskien gaan in hulle gesigte opblaas, maar dit kan ook ander kant uitwerk. Al wat ek kan sê is ek is nie 'n politieke ontleder nie, maar ek is observant as iemand wat ook 'n hele klomp besighede mee moes werk, korporatiewe maatskappye moes werk en ook waar daar verandering in leierskap moes kom, so ek moes observe wat gebeur.
En die rede hoekom ek vra is omdat iemand dalk die vraag mag vra, wie dra al die koste van hierdie uitstappie? Ons is op Robben Eilande, maar ek dink dit is belangrik om dit te sien as 'n belegging in ons jong mense se toekoms om die vaardighede wat binne in hulle is uit te bring en dat ons nou moet invest in plaas van om wanneer hulle die dag nodig het om te lei, dat hulle nie kan nie, want hulle die waarde binne in hulle was nog nooit uitgetrek nie.
En die lekker ding is elke maak nie saak waar jy jouself in 'n korporatiewe wêreld, klein besigheid in die regering, daar is begroting wat uiteengesit is aan die begin van die finansiële jaar vir sulke ontwikkelingsakademies. Die is die departement van hoër onderwys en ontwikkeling. En ek meen in opleiding. So ek is seker dit is deel van hulle begroting, maar ek stem saam met jou dat dit is definitief 'n investering in die toekoms van Suid-Afrika en obviously vir die kinders se toekoms, maar nie net in die departement nie, maar in Suid-Afrika, want uit en een ding het jy ook genoem vroeër, dit maak nie saak aan wie jy geaffilieer is nie, dit gaan oor die toekoms van die land, so ek dink hulle gaan definitief baie leer die week.
Wonderlik, dankie Linden Jafta. So gesels ons met Linden Jafta en ons is natuurlik nog steeds hier so op Robben Eiland waar die minister van hoër onderwys en opleiding, minister Buti Manamela vandag direk met ons jong mense skakel en gesels oor leierskap en oor die tipe leiers wat geïdentifiseer is en dan ook die karaktereienskappe van 'n goeie leier en hy is dan so nog steeds besig om one-on-one vrae te beantwoord met ons jong mense en sodat vir hulle te motiveer om dan ook eendag sy skoene te kan voorstel. Ons sal kyk of ons later so 'n paar minute met die minister kan kry om net sy persoonlike gevoel te kry, maar dis Edgar Peterson en Linda Jafta en ons is hier by Robben Island. God bless, Edgar Peterson vir u